Hello, friends. Anya, one of the Patreon members of our community, she left a comment that I feel it really covers an important
Mm-hmm.
topic and a multi-layered topic when we're on this path. And really, any spiritual path that would be mystical in nature, because
Mm-hmm.
it has us exploring uh, what we mean by the ego and eventually transforming what we mean by the ego. You have a
So,
good starting place for this?
well, it came from the shapeshifting
Yes, yes.
message, and I think part of the crux of the challenge is that as we begin to delve deeper into a spirituality that asks us to be open to connecting with everything, and in fact, maybe asks us to be more fluid in nature, or even not even asks us to be, but we start to realize, oh, the me that I think I am it could just be anything. Um, then we get to a place where if anything is okay, and I don't really have anything that defines me, then sort of who am I anyway? And for me, a lot of times from that question, then what do I matter? What is my purpose? What's the whole point of all of this anyway? Did I
So we can go
do
from,
justice?
I think so. So we can go from this feeling of I know who I am, or at least I have a sense this is Kenton, and then I start exploring the spiritualities, and they almost can kind of convince me that Kenton is more of a mask or
Mm,
almost like clothing that I'm wearing, a style that I'm currently taking on, something that's always shifting and
yeah,
changing. Many of these traditions call us to recognize change so that we can see, oh, whatever I cling to or think of as me is actually an ever shifting thing.
right,
But then you're saying I'm kind of left with what?
right.
Who am I? And that can be a scary place to be sometimes.
Right, or even
Confusing.
just, as Anya pointed out, kind of what grounds you into, I could also imagine it could feel kind of floaty, or like when there's so many choices, and
Mm.
suddenly if there's an endless possibility, how are you supposed to come to any conclusion from all of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we spoke about this in Becoming Dungeon Master too. This idea that we can take this idea of who I am, and we can almost see it as a role playing character, and shift it. We're not bound, even by our past actions or ideas, into being that in the future. We can always make these
Right.
shifts and these changes. And of course, yes, there's habits and things that continue to give us that feeling of permanence, or at least duration of meanness. But what is there when we don't have that? And we were talking about this yesterday a little bit, you and I felt like you pointed out some very important things about this. Do you remember
Yeah.
what? Yeah.
What? Tell me the first thing that you're thinking of, because I talked about a couple of different things.
Oh,
They're
let's
all
see.
interrelated, but
So okay, so here I am. I have this clinging, and first of all, we can ask why
mm-hmm.
why I'm clinging to this idea. What do I get from this idea of meanness?
Yeah.
What does it give me? It gives me maybe a sense of, well, I think you talked about a lack of ambiguity. It gives me a sense of certainty.
Yeah, I think human beings, maybe more than any other creature, it'd be hard to know, really do not care for not knowing.
We like to know. It's, yeah.
Yeah, we really want to. It's probably a safety mechanism of just being able to have the facts quote in front of us so that we can know what to do next. And so that's tricky. I think it is interesting to ask what value is there in being a particular me? And as an aside, I often wonder, is it just social creatures that feel the need to understand who they are within the context of a group? And then I think a big part of it also is that we somehow, having a sense of me elicits a value. This is who I am, and who I am is defined by where I am in the world, who I'm with, how I interact with the group that I'm with. It makes me wonder, do solo animals that are not, social by nature, do they need, I don't know.
I can see this coming out of a social context.
Right. So in a weird way, when there are many of us, I want to know who I am in relation to others and where I stand then with the others, and how to identify myself with someone or not with someone. And that's just, it's kind of interesting to think, to ask ourselves, okay, why am I uncomfortable with that feeling of who am I? And why can it seem daunting or scary or any of that? But it also seems as though we actually, I feel like this is an issue with our standard American culture. We can very, very viscerally feel who we are and kind of know who we are, probably without a doubt. The more that we can act freely and naturally, the more that we are actually in a present moment, responding to what's in the present moment, versus being raised in a culture with ideas about what I should be, what I shouldn't be, what is valuable to others, what isn't valuable, and then starting to have these blocks that I crystallize. Oh, I am I'm an artist, or I am a feminist, or I am this. And then you make defining parameters around that you're not allowed to go outside of. And
you mean we don't even allow ourselves
we don't. We build a house, a barricade for ourselves out of all these ideas of who we are, and then we think that that's who we are. But really, we're way more animalistic. I think, I don't know if that is fair to say or not, but I think I feel the most connected to, quote, me, which doesn't need to be defined, when I step out of any kind of contemplative viewpoint, right? I'm not going, oh, what's my value? And I could be everything or anything. Those are all great thoughts to have because they kick the ego on its butt. But if I get too far into that swirlingness, I feel most, quote, like me when I am doing something that is a natural arising with the moment that I'm in. I have a shared kind of conspiratorial smile with a stranger where, you just, and maybe I'll never see them again. We've talked about that before, but that's a feeling of me. I've connected. A lot of times it comes down to connection, and it comes down to a feeling of openness. Or, I go outside, and the spring sun is on my face, and there's this breeze, and the birds are singing, and I'm right there. Even times when someone I know has been so sad, when there's been grief or there's been sorrow, if I am not thinking about everything and I am just with that moment that's unfolding, I feel really me. And I have no words to define it. And it can be anything. And I don't also then, I'll give you a chance to speak.
No, this is perfect. This is perfect, because this is what you were talking about yesterday.
Yeah, when I define myself by all those little bricks of my barricade of who I am, my house of me, I don't allow myself to maybe have experiences. So it kind of makes me think of people that have rules or even boundaries. We've talked about that before. And sometimes when you're so strict on those, that's not, so there are some that that we can use those as a tool. But let's just say for the moment, we don't recognize that we've put these boundaries on ourselves. We respond based on programming, right? Like a pop-up window that says, oh, this is a situation, react, right? But maybe if we didn't do that and we just saw kind of the situation, we go, oh, this is how I'm feeling, this is happening again, and you know how I feel about that. We didn't do that, and we could just for a moment say, okay, I allow myself to be anything I want in this moment. What do I really feel? Oh, I'm feeling scared, but something feels off. Maybe there's something more to it. There's a rigidity that happens when we become or we act or we are ourselves based on our ideas and the ideas people have given us of who we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When we talk about the myth of Divine Mother, we're talking about using a concept to try to point us toward a feeling or a sensation of being. The myth, the story, is just there to direct us. And so that runs through all of our life. That's kind of what concepts ideally should be for. But when we equate those concepts with ourselves, I think the wisdom part of us inside knows, oh my gosh, I'm making myself only into a little story.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making myself into a concept. And our wiser self inside doesn't go for this. This isn't so great. It doesn't give us that same feeling as when we feel that presence you're talking about.
Yeah.
And ideally, most of us have experienced that at least once or a couple times in our lives when we're walking outside and we see the wind in the trees and we're suddenly just there.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a moment of feeling a fullness and a wholeness where our mind is not clouded with questions and everything is clear in that moment because there's a purity and a simplicity that cuts through all these ideas. Meeting some authors I really respect lately. There's some nature authors, and they're talking, 3 different people all talking about the deep complexity of nature. And yes, there's a deep complexity, but sometimes we can fail to see that complexity evolves out of our conceptualizations, our breaking down of things into many things interacting.
Right.
When we're there suddenly for a moment and we feel this, we feel the simplicity of being, of beingness. And there's a clarity, that's what so many of these traditions, Zen, Taoism, and all, point to this sensation of being. So we have these people telling us, yeah, there's this great treasure at the end if you dare look at your ego self.
Right.
But gosh, our mind, it feels ambiguous. Because feelings, what if I ask you just to feel, it can be, for instance, you get a meal, a plate in front of you. It's a whole bunch of food that's prepared. You can't even tell what it is. It's all fancily done. You don't know is it meat
There's
or
sauces in there.
Right.
Okay.
And so we have a moment there where we could just eat this food. It's been lovingly prepared, and we could experience it. But if you think about it, for most of us, if we're in that situation, we want to say,
what is that?
What is this? Yes. I want to know the name of the dish. Sometimes it's as ridiculous as that. Somebody just has to say, yes, that is soja la fricassee. And then we're satisfied because our mind now has its label, its concept. But if we can just taste it. I remember a realization that came to me once. It was Sweetwater when we used to live there. And I was down by the little bridge over the stream. And I heard something. And I watched my mind go, what is that? Because it wanted to put a name, raccoon or squirrel.
I remember this.
Yeah. But for a moment there, instead, my mind said, That's what it is. It's that sound.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Right. It's kind of the experience you're having.
Yeah.
Yeah. We live so and think and sometimes even feel so linearly. But I've just been having an experience lately that, because you said, oh, some of these teachings tell us there's this treasure at the end. And it makes it sound like you follow A, B, C down the road and you'll get the treasure box, right? And it isn't like that. It's like a tapestry, right? And there's joy and there's sorrow and there's you get it and you don't get it and there's wow, a moment that you feel wow, I that's the treasure, and then the next moment, oh dang, I'm grumpy and I don't feel the treasure anymore, but I was just feeling it, and it's all a tapestry to me, versus if I do this, then this, then this, then this. The cause and effect is so tricky. It's that veil of Maya that completely enchants us. And I think the sense of self is also part of the veil. Not the sense of self truly, but the feeling that we have to define ourselves. And I don't know, our culture doesn't ask us to just feel or to just experience, or one day you can be one way and the next day you can be the next a different way. We're not okay with that. We're not ever encouraged to, do a Walden and just take a year and live with the seasons and whatever comes. But I think if we could, in a weird way, I think coming to that place where it's almost an existential crisis is very, very close to just flipping to the other side and going, oh, ha ha, ha, it doesn't matter, nothing matters, woohoo! Like I'm gonna be this like this and this like that, and you be like that, and and kind of this, wow, freeing of ourselves from having to have pressures on us. But I think that can be intimidating.
Yeah. As we so often say in this path of Divine Mother, I feel like playfulness is a key. You have your arms out and you're smiling and laughing.
Mm-hmm.
We often don't, because it's so normal, we don't realize or can't feel properly the weight of holding a concept of myself and trying to hold to it.
Mm-hmm.
We even think that it's good. I'm not going to be a good person. I'm not going to treat people well unless I think I'm a good person and an honest person. And then I adhere to that.
Mm-hmm.
So we put this structure to something that really comes naturally.
Right.
Most of us we naturally are going to be honest and loving and good people. When we can start to feel that weight a little bit, notice it through mindfulness, meditation, awareness, and then ask what happens if I play. In this story of Divine Mother, she's playing all parts of the world. And as one of those players she's playing, we have this permission to play too, to explore different aspects of who this is, what this experience is. That's this. And as we do that, we come at it from a playful context, instead of a real serious or
serious is definitely not gonna help us probably see clearly.
Serious, I feel like the serious mind guides us very strongly into conceptualization.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see this if you've ever gone to non-dual Reddits and stuff, you see so many people arguing about, well, you said I, and that's, all these kinds of arguing about concepts. And there's a seriousness and an eagerness to sometimes show that we are spiritually advanced.
Oh my.
If we can not take ourselves so seriously, if we can play, be playful. Think of ourselves as, think of ourselves as the opposite. Think of ourselves as just spiritual beginners that are just
I love that.
playing.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
we come at it so differently.
I do really love that, because I think if we can approach that idea, of who am I, what is my purpose, and all of that, from just not even thinking about that, just encouraging ourselves to see how many moments we can have in a day where we are just present and we simply experience, and we naturally let whatever wants to be expressed come forth.
Mm.
I talked about a smile with a stranger. It's so many simple things of slowing down. I think seriousness goes hand in hand with hurry and worry. Hurry and worry go together. And when we have actual moments where we stop and we look in our child's eye, or we just say, hey, self, what feels good right now? I just want to go down to the park and watch the ducks because they're back again. That sounds great. Not having, oh, but I have this deadline and I was supposed to do this thing and I still haven't cleaned out my shoe drawer. And, I don't know. The serious mind is also extremely responsible, but that responsibility sometimes really drags us down. So the playfulness and the connecting with the present moment to allow the selfness, whatever it's going to be, just to be experienced. And the more moments like that we can have, I think the more we can have a sense of who we are without having to define what that is.
So if you're exploring these things and you're getting a little uncomfortable with the exploration of you-ness, in a way that's a good thing, because it means that you're seeing those concepts and getting a hint that, whoa, what if I don't let those concepts? So that discomfort is a good sign that you're starting to see things in a pretty cool way. Now it can get so uncomfortable that, as you use that word existential, people can kind of go down into a pit sometimes. So it's very important to watch yourself, know thyself, and if you feel like you're starting to slip down there, to back off a little bit and say, okay, I'm just going to go into playful mode. What I do know is that Ken is, I think I'm this, set of characteristics, and today, I'm going to play a little bit with being a little bit more of this characteristic or that characteristic. Choose some good ones that you like and just play with that. Even doing that starts to convince you that you are at least moldable. Even seeing that we're moldable gets us out of that mindset of that old saying, people never change, and starts to show us firsthand that change is at least part of who we are, if not.
I feel like
very much
it comes down to, we've been raised in a culture that says change is bad. So we don't want you to change. So you're forced to be who you are. You said you were like this, but I thought you loved chocolate. Now it's vanilla. What? I guess just that playfulness and not taking it too seriously, and also kind of realizing that within the scheme of things, if we're talking about Divine Mother, to her, she values you, us, each thing she is, for its unfolding adventure, for its exploration. So there isn't a right or a wrong unless you are deciding that there's a right or a wrong. I know that's a huge and loaded kind of statement that I don't think we need to discuss further right now, only to say that for Divine Mother, if you decide, hey, I want to have these values and be this person and I'm going to define myself like that, that is not a wrong choice.
It's kind of freeing to think that you can't mess it up.
Yeah. Yeah, it really comes down to what do you want to experience? And then I just come back to find those present moments and feel what the response is, not the pop-up window reaction, but what is the actual response that you want, to let unfold? What feels naturally unfolding for you? Yeah.
Well, we'll leave
So
it
such a
there.
big topic. Yeah, just share. And yeah, I just, whatever thoughts come to mind, it would be fun to hear.
So much love to you all. Thank you for joining us today.